sing. So nice. Hey, hello. This is Anneke Sips, the founder of Network Yoga Therapy, and you're right here where the mind meets the movement. So this is the second part of the 4-part masterclass series with a very special guest, Nitya Mohan from Singapore. And we're very happy that she's here with us to talk a little bit about sound and the sutras. We'll introduce her in a little bit. First, I want to talk a little bit about these masterclasses in general and the mission of Network Yoga Therapy. Yes, I believe it's very important to become aware of ourselves first, and then become aware of our environment and to leave a positive footprint for our next generations. And I think this is why it's very important to share yoga and the practices of yoga with as many people as possible. So these masterclasses are one example of this, and I'm very happy that Nitya is sharing her knowledge and insight with us. So first, a few practical things. Please just turn off your cell phones, and maybe you want to close also the tabs on your computer just to avoid distraction. Like you can see, there's a little comment box below this video. If you like, it would be great if you comment, or maybe you have some new insight or something you want to share with us and the community. Also, it would be great if you could share this masterclass link with your friends and colleagues, because there's a few more masterclasses coming up. And yeah, that's it. Just let's start and by introducing ourselves first. So, this is Nitya Mohan. Nitya is the daughter of A.J. Mohan and Indra Mohan. She's from Singapore. She's the director of Svastha Yoga and Ayurveda in Singapore, and she's leading programs for already years over there. She holds a degree in music, and she's an exponent in Sanskrit and also Vedic chanting. From a very young age, she's trained in yoga and also music. And her holistic teaching, she combines the streams of classical yoga, mantras, music, and Sanskrit all together. So I don't know if you have anything to add there, Nitya.
Thank you, Anneke. Happy to be here.
Happy that you are here. So my name is Anneke. I am the founder of Network Yoga Therapy. Also, I'm a registered nurse and one of the first accredited yoga therapists in Europe. And so today's topic, we have 4 masterclasses, and today's topic is about the Yoga Sutra in daily life. And we will talk about this through a few questions. And these questions will be the following. So the first question that we will talk about is about the study of the chapters of the Yoga Sutras. We generally seem to study and discuss more of the second chapter of the sutras, sometimes even start with it instead of the first chapter. What is the specific reason for this? The second question will be about how we can, how the Yoga Sutras can help us taking yoga off the mat, and actually what it even means to practice off the mat in the first place. And we will also talk about Pranayama and how this is all linked and how this is all related. So let's start with the first question. Yeah, we generally seem to study and discuss more of the second chapter first, Nitya. Sometimes we even start with it. So what is the specific reason for that?
Vyasa, in the commentary of the Yoga Sutras, Vyasa, as you know, is one of the first commentators. The oldest commentary on the Yoga Sutras is by Vyasa. And he says in the beginning of the second chapter, how does someone with a distracted mind practice yoga? And I think that's our answer, because I think that is something all of us in the modern world unequivocally qualify for, a distracted mind. Because the second chapter starts with saying, if someone cannot attain a state of samadhi very easily, cannot go into states of mind that are completely focused, how does he practice yoga? And then the second chapter starts, which is also why Krishnamacharya often started actually teaching the second chapter first and then went on to the first chapter, because the second chapter also contains a lot of practice-oriented sutras. A lot of important practices actually of the Yoga Sutras themselves are in the second chapter. So that's usually why we prefer to begin with the second chapter first and then go on with the first, third, and the fourth.
How is it possible? Like, what does it mean actually to take these practices off the mat?
By taking a practice off a mat, what I mean is that, so when we get onto a yoga mat, we do something consciously with the body, with the breath, with the mind. We try and make it an integrated practice, right? When we get onto the mat. By taking a practice off a mat, what I mean is that we must ensure that whatever we do on the mat with body, breath, and mind must reflect in our daily life, right? It must support, it must nourish all the changes, the positive changes, or the habits that I want to bring about in my daily life must be influenced positively by whatever I do on my yoga mat. So which means that even if I do a 20-minute practice on my mat, that I actually allow that to make a difference to the rest of my day in many little ways. It could be the breath practices, it could be the awareness, it could be just postural practices, whatever it is that I do on the mat should really support and reflect whatever I do in daily life. The goals that I'm setting for myself in daily life should be supported by the practices that I do on the mat.
So would you say these are equally important, on the mat and off the mat practices?
Absolutely, because I think we said that earlier, that there was really no yoga mat many hundred years ago. That's what we are coming back to. We're saying that yoga is a way of life. It's a way of thinking. It's attitudes. It's a perspective towards health that we want to bring about through the practices of yoga, perspective towards our own health and well-being. Therefore, I think it's equally important that, because we cannot, how much ever we try and practice on the mat, we cannot do that 24/7. So we really have to see how I can bring some of those practices at other times into my life when I'm not on the mat.
Right. Yes, that's the whole, that's the beauty of it also, I think, if you can really bring it. So, and what are the practices then in the second chapter of the Yoga Sutras that are really important here?
Pretty much all of them, I would think. There are many of them in the second chapter. There is the Kriya Yoga, which is what the second chapter starts with, the practices of Tapaha, Swadhyaya, and the Ishvara Pranidhana, which are key practices for any personal transformation to happen. There's also the reflective framework of Pratipaksha Bhavana. There are, of course, the 8 limbs, of which the 5 limbs are in the second chapter. So it's hard to pinpoint any one particular practice, but I think probably the central, or the link, the most important link between all of these practices would be the breathing practices, which are based on the concept of pranayama, right? Because when Patanjali defines pranayama, or starts off the concept of pranayama in the second chapter, the sutra, which is Tasmin Sati Shwasa Prashwasayoho Gati Vichchedaha Pranayamaha. Gati Vichcheda, Gati means the flow, Vichcheda means to interrupt. Right? So interrupting the flow of the breath is a very simple definition of pranayama. I consciously alter or interrupt the flow of my breathing. But why? Why do I want to do that? Very simply, the minute I alter my breath consciously, my mind will pay attention. That's a basic fact. Now, if I asked you to just stop breathing, if I said, hold your breath, immediately after say 3 or 4 seconds, my mind is watching. My mind is immediately coming to attention the minute I interrupt my breath, because it's a survival mechanism.
For sure.
Right? I have to breathe in order to live. Therefore, the minute I alter my breath or pause my breath, my mind watches. That's first and foremost in the practice of pranayama, that I consciously bring changes to my breathing patterns so that I can influence my mind first to pay attention, and then later focus, and then bring the changes that I want to bring in its habitual patterns.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. That makes so much sense, and it's very interesting to think of it this way. And if we are thinking about this pranayama, how is this linked to sound then? How are they related?
The breath is actually, in one sense, any sound is breathing, right? As I'm speaking to you, as we speak, we are exhaling, right? There is no sound without my breath. And if I really want to alter my breathing patterns, which is what we said pranayama is about, what better way to do that than with sound? Simply because it's very instinctive, it's natural, right? If I, for example, if I say, Aneka, I'd like you to simply say the sound of ah with me, you know. For example, if you say ah, can we do that together?
Sure.
Ah. One more time. Now, what exactly happened when I asked you to say ah? You gave your brain a command saying, okay, Nitya's asking me to say ah, so I have to now produce the sound ah. And then you took an inhale and then said ah. Right? So automatically, your breath is engaged, your mind is engaged, because when you were actually saying ah, how many thoughts did you actually have in your mind at that point?
Yeah.
Definitely a little lesser than normal, right? Because at that point, when I'm actually saying ah, the first thing that any sound does is it interrupts that thinking process, right? Which is also why we joke saying that, you know, when I'm really shouting, I'm not thinking because I cannot shout and think at the same time. So normally when I use an external sound, especially when I use a sound, it cuts off my internal, that compulsive chatter that's going on in my mind. So it becomes a very natural linkage between the thoughts in my mind, between my breathing, which are what I really want to work on with pranayama, right? Which is also why traditionally pranayama was defined with a mantra. Right? A lot of texts, classical texts, actually define the length of breath in pranayama along with a mantra, to say that you use a mantra to determine the length of your breath.
Okay. And would it be, maybe it would be nice if we would try to chant the A sutra together. What, for example, the sutra about pranayama? That we
Sure, why not? Mm-hmm.
Why not? So, yeah, shall we?
Yeah, sure. You can repeat it after me. Tasmin sati
Tasmin sati
shvasa
svasa
prashvasayoho
prashvasyahoyo
gati
gati
vichedaha
vichedaha
pranayamaha
pranayamaha
tasmin sati
tasmin sati
shvasa
svasa
Prashvasayoho
Prashvasayoho
Gati
Gati
Vichedaha
Vichedaha
Pranayamaha
Pranayamaha
Tasmin Sati
Tasmin Sati
Shvasa
Schwarza
Prashvasayoho
Prashvasayoho
Gati
Gati
Vichedaha
Vichedaha
Pranayamaha
Pranayamaha. Yeah, wow, that's, I think on so many levels, this is so interesting what happens to the mind and to the breath and to the body, actually, if you practice such a practice.
Yeah, because the sound is very real in the body. See, when we use sound, the vibrations of the body are physical. The intention of the sound is in the mind, it is mental. The breath is also engaged. So it's a very natural link between body, breath, and mind,
Mm-hmm.
which is also what we will talk about a little more in the third masterclass, and then also about what is it exactly we should be chanting. You know, should it be in Sanskrit, etc.? That's what we want to talk about in the fourth class.
Nice. Yes, I'm looking forward to these.
But let's do a practice as we've always done in all the other classes as well. So we'll do a practice just simply with ah, just as we did earlier, but we will do that with a little bit of a scale, like what I do in the sound work. So I would like you to join me in the practice. So let's close our eyes, and if you'd like to put on earphones or headphones and join me in the practice. Sound forms an intrinsic link between our breath and mind. There is no sound without the breath, and every sound we make, be it articulated speech or unarticulated sounds, they reflect directly the contents of our minds. We can use sound in many ways to influence and interrupt the flow of the breath and the mind thereby, which is the first step in pranayama or breath work. Bringing awareness to the flow of my breath, altering the flow of breath with awareness, gati vichedaha. Yoga itself is about this, interrupting the thoughts in my mind with awareness is the first step. And what better way to do that other than with sound, which links naturally with our breath and the mind. I'm going to lead you through a dual tonal practice, the purpose of which is also dual. One, to lengthen and deepen our exhalation effortlessly, which leads to an automatic sense of release. Two,
for us to experience how easy it is actually to interrupt thinking with focus on a sound, a syllable as simple as ah. But first, I would like to invite you to close your eyes. Take a long, deep inhale, as long and deep as is comfortable right now. Then release that breath slowly on exhale, making it smooth, long, and soft. Please do that a few times. Breathing in deeply and breathing out with the exhale long and smooth. Please continue to do this and listen to me as I will outline the scale that we will use. During the practice, we will stay focused on the quality of the breath and the sound, watching how the evenness and the smoothness of the sound automatically focuses the mind, allowing us to become absorbed with very little effort, and at the same time lengthening the exhalation effortlessly, allowing a sense of release. I am going to sing 2 tones in each breath. The first time, just listen, absorbing the tones and the vibrations with your eyes closed. The second time, please join me aloud. Inhale, making it deep and comfortable, and filling the length of your exhale with the sound in 2 tones. The first time, please listen. The second time, please join me. Please continue the breathing and long deep inhale and exhale, focusing on the quality of your exhale being smooth, steady, long and subtle. I will end with 2 lines from a song that talks about focus of mind. जिनके हृदय में राम बसे, जिनके हृदय में राम बसे, जिनके हृदय में राम बसे, तिन और के नाम लिए न लिए, जिनके हृदय में राम बसे, तिन और के नाम लिए न लिए, जिनके हृदय में राम बसे। जिनके द्वारे श्री गंगा बहे, तिन कूप के नीर पिए, जिन माता पिता गुरु सेवके तिन तीरथ भरत के न के जिनके हृदय में राम बसे जिनके हृदय में राम बसे
So that again was a very beautiful practice, Nitya. Thank you so much for sharing this with us. And well, we're rounding up for today again. So today we were talking about the differences and the importance of the chapter 1 and chapter 2 of the Yoga Sutras, how the sutras are linked to the breath and how breath is linked to the sound, and the relationship between pranayama and sound. And I'm very much looking forward for the next two masterclasses with you. And everybody, be welcome to join us again for the next masterclass. Invite your friends by sharing the link, and don't forget to comment if you have anything to say about this masterclass below in the comment space. So thank you very much, and thank you very much, Nitya, and looking forward
Thank
to
you.
Thank you. Yeah, Nitya, can you explain a little bit about the sutra workshop? Because we know in Amsterdam, for example, you're doing the sound workshop, but also a sutra workshop. And the sound workshop actually is almost fully booked, but there's still space in the sutra workshop. Can you explain a little bit what you are doing, what you're planning to do, what you're planning to share and teach in this 2 days? This will be the Saturday and Sunday.
Thank you, Annika. In the Yoga Sutras workshop, I'd like us to do a few things. One, yes, of course, we will learn to chant the sutras by repetition, breaking them up into smaller parts, then putting them together and chanting them. Other than that, I would also like us to spend some time going into some discussions on the sutras that we chant, picking out some key central concepts that are really useful for us today as yoga teachers, as practitioners. What is it that we can actually apply from the Yoga Sutras and what we can bring into our daily practices and our teachings? So if we take, for example, discussing on the concepts of the positive psychology practices in the first chapter, or the Kriya Yoga in the second chapter, looking at how can I actually bring, tapaswadhyaya, Ishvara pranidhana as attitudes in my practice or intentions in my practice. As we learn to chant, that we also discuss a little bit, go a little deeper into some of those concepts and understanding. And the other area that I would also like to look into is the sound. That's my favorite area of work anyway. But also looking at, how mantras and sound are mentioned in the Yoga Sutras is, in the first chapter under the Ishvara Pranidhana, the concept of Ishvara Pranidhana, the Om, which is the only mantra actually that is mentioned in the Yoga Sutras, is the Pranavam. And Tajjapaha Tadartha Bhavanam, it talks about japa, mantra japa, or the repetition of the mantra of Om. So I'd like us, for example, to do a practice with that, to how can I, in different ways, how can I use Om for a personal meditational practice? What intentions can I give to it? How can I combine the breathing with it? So that it's not just the chanting from 1 to 55, but then we stop every now and then at the important sutras, we discuss a little, we practice a little, and then we come back to the chanting, so that you actually take home something that I can put to practice immediately, because that's the most important thing.
Great. I cannot wait. So thank you for this little explanation. And well, thank you so much.
Welcome, and I'm looking forward to seeing you in Amsterdam.